Your destination is on the left.
Oh. Okay, against all odds, we've arrived. Oh. Yes, I know. We have arrived for our first interview in Missouri. So much happened on our way here. We had been held up by terrorists. We've been held up by mail that was supposed to come in. That came in late and then didn't come in, and then had some issues with the brakes, possibly again, and light, and then also got on the wrong freeway. So that took us an hour out of the way, but we arrived. We're here, and I see someone waiting for us. Haha. Oh. Woo. Hello. Never. It's so dark we can't see anything, but how are ya?
Great, how are you?
Great to see you. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry we're so late. It's so dark. I know there's two people here, I promise. We're going to go inside. Yep, we'll catch. Hold on. There we are.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Chad.
I've chatted with you.
That's the Chad
Yes, ma'am.
Scott back there.
Hello, Scott.
We're going to go inside, get set up, and we'll be right back with you.
Excellent, bro.
Excellent.
Well,
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's very cool of you. Sorry we're so late. Besides all the things we ran into, we actually ended up on the wrong freeway as well, which took us completely around. Doesn't matter. But it was an hour added to it. Here's Corin. Corin. Squeeze in here next to you.
You're welcome, Chip.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah. Neo Show was an event that happened not too far from here, which was a great little event. And that's where we first got to say hello.
We did say hello there.
And now to say hello again, I'm Corin.
Again, I'm Michelle.
Michelle. Everyone, this is Michelle. That's awesome.
Hello, hello.
How are things going for you?
Phenomenal.
Excellent.
Phenomenal.
I love to hear that.
I'm trying to be very upbeat.
Yeah.
You hit a point in your life and you're like, I'm just going to be mellow.
Yes, I can't wait to
hit that
beat.
point.
Yes, I look forward to. Again, apologies for being so late.
I'm just ecstatic that you guys all made it.
Truly.
Truly.
When we commit to something, we do our best to come through.
So, I appreciate that.
What I like to start out with is just finding out, kind of where you were born. But start with the basics.
The basics.
Yeah.
I was actually born in Kansas City, but moved around quite a bit very, very, very early on. So my first memories are from Colorado.
From Colorado,
Yeah.
okay.
My
How many
dad-
places did you move between Kansas City and Colorado?
I couldn't tell you for sure because I was only like 3 or 4 years old at the time. So pretty
Was
much
it-
well before you remember anything.
Yeah. What was the reason for the moving?
My dad was in the service.
That's what I was wondering,
So we went to Florida. He was stationed in Greece, so we went to Florida, stayed with his parents when I was a little bit. I mean, I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
But don't remember any of it.
Right. Of course. And then, when did he finish up in the military?
It was in the probably early 70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when you ended up
Right outside Denver.
right outside Denver. Okay.
Yeah.
What branch of the military was he in?
Air Force.
Right. Yeah. My grandfather was in the Air Force. My dad was in the Navy, but
Yeah.
what did he do in the Air Force? Was he a pilot or was he?
No. He's a tech geek.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
He's
That's
kind of
cool.
one of the AV guys.
Yeah. Well, that's extremely important.
So he did that type of work, and then very good at gadgets and gizmos and things like that. So he wasn't in very long,
Right.
but then just moved on to. Anybody remembers Kodak?
Of course. What did he do for Kodak?
He was actually a copier repairman for many, many years.
Oh,
When all
okay.
those machines first started coming out.
They were a very big deal. I
They
remember
were.
when they came out.
They were.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a game changer.
It was, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, huge game changer. And did he continue in that field of work all the way until retirement, or did he?
I'm trying to think what else he did. I mean, he did that. He was always doing things like he built his RTV. I remember in the basement, he had the electronics and the circuit boards and the soldering iron, and bought a kit and he built RTV and.
That's hilarious.
Yes, I mean, unusual and unusual.
I tend to
childhood.
wonder if it was cheaper or if it was more expensive. I guess you'll never know.
I'll
will you?
never know.
It'd be cool if you still had that TV, though. I'll tell you that
Don't
much.
have it. Don't
Yeah.
have it.
Did it have one of those weird kind of warped screens?
Oh,
that
no,
sort
it was
of
the big, what, cathode ray tube, the big.
Do you remember those things? I remember them when I was
Well,
a
yeah,
kid.
I'm older than you. I remember.
Not much. I was born in '71.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
What about your mom? What did she do when you were growing up?
Homemaker.
Okay.
Yep.
And did she seem happy in that role? And
I'd say very much so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's I will say that if people don't know, being a stay-at-home mom is a job in and of itself that most people probably can't. They would probably like to get a job
Sometimes.
to get out of doing the stay-at-home mom thing all the time. So I commend her on that. Do you think that do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. She's 9 years younger, and I kind of joke that we were both raised only children because of the age gap. And I got married when I was fairly young, not super young.
Yeah.
And right after we got married, they moved to New York, so we end up transitioning.
Well, that's my son and daughter. They're 11 years apart. So
So
it was
you
similar.
understand how that is.
Yeah, it was like having two only children.
Exactly.
basically. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. With your mom being a stay-at-home mom and dad working, having that kind of a atomic age family, the nuclear family as it's called, was that a benefit?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know any different at the time.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. I mean, I kind of joke that I'm dysfunctional because my parents are still married.
Right. That's amazing, though. It's amazing.
Yeah, they are.
But when from a comparison, from even if it's not necessarily an objective comparison, but if you think back on it now, with you and your sister, or with you, your mom having all of that time to do things, tend to you, make sure that things are going right for you, make sure you're keeping up with your schoolwork and all of that stuff, being a big
Right.
part of your life. Do you think that kind of attention and nurturing was a positive for you? Did it help you in
I would say so. We were a little bit unique in that my mom didn't drive. She didn't get her driver's license until after I got mine in high school. So really, we relied on my dad to take us anywhere we needed to go. But growing up in Colorado, they were a little more progressive.
Right.
I could ride the bus. Of course, I would never in this day put my kids on a bus to ride across town to go to dance lessons.
Right.
Like I did. I would never do that. But it was the norm in the 70s.
Yes, that's come up a number of times about how different it was back then growing up in terms of the amount of freedom that we had as kids,
Oh.
and that was just in comparison to today. It's very strange. I was I don't want to lose my train of thought. With your mom, I was that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that she probably didn't get her license so she could keep your dad on a short leash.
Oh, he would probably agree with
Yeah,
that.
she's like, nope. That's so great though. It's fantastic that they're still together, and those kind of relationships. I just I'm flummoxed by.
Well, and
but-
ironically, if you go down the street and make a big U, they're exactly a mile away from us.
Oh, really? That's
Yep.
fantastic.
Yep.
So you get to see them quite often.
We get to see them quite often, yes.
That's great. That's great. And do you get along with them as well?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Pop in here and say hello real quick.
This is my oldest, James.
How's it going?
This is James. We got to meet as well at Neo Show too, and
Way back.
James has been silent as a mouse over there. I thought maybe you were trapped at the door or something, like you were afraid to cross by.
Well, I was kind of watching the other side of the screen just to
Oh,
be like
cool,
where the
cool.
frame was at. So I was actually, it's time to go get
Dinner.
dinner for everybody. So I was
Okay.
like trying to look at the screen, look at the background. Okay, I could go get the wallet, try to sneak the keys out.
Oh, you can walk through the
Yeah.
background. We don't have we don't worry about those kind of things in this particular format.
This
we
is
just
real
go
life.
for it.
I asked him a message like, hey, can I leave out the door? Am I going to pick him up? Go for it. All right, see you in a little bit, man.
Okay, man.
Do you need my wallet to pay for it? Just tell her I'll catch her tomorrow. Thank you.
And your dad was his work hours really long? I mean, or
Oh,
was
no,
he
he
home
was-
quite a bit?
It was very set. You know, dinner was at 5:30 every night. You know, it was the little white picket fence upbringing.
It sounds like heaven to me, to be perfectly honest. It really does. I long for that kind of a lifestyle. When you were a kid, what was living in Colorado? What was the area like you were living in?
It was a suburb. I've always pretty much lived in suburbs everywhere I've been.
So it was kind of a middle class type of
I'd say
environment.
so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And was it a large school that you went to? A lot of kids.
It was
or-
interesting. My elementary school, they went year round.
Oh, that's strange.
And so
That's-
back then, very progressive. So they kind of did it in blocks. So you would go for so long and then be off for a set period of time and then go for so you were actually off during all 4 seasons. You'd had a break.
Right.
And then it was the entire neighborhood. So all the kids in the neighborhood were out at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we got spring, we got summer, we got winter, we got fall. It was pretty cool. I didn't have a full summer vacation until 5th grade.
That must have been weird.
It was strange. I was stir crazy.
I bet.
When you're used to being off for 2 weeks and then you're off for the entire summer, it felt like forever.
Yes, but when I remember being a kid, everything felt like forever.
Of course.
Which is grand. I wish it still felt that way.
Right. Time goes way too fast now.
It's way too fast. With the kind of the support that you had from your parents, did that help you, maintain kind of a presence in school that was stable, that that you didn't, was there any kind of bullying? Was there like weird social things going on at that time, or?
It was different because I, of course, started school in Colorado. We then moved from there to New York, outside of Rochester, for
Oh wait, what year was that?
junior high.
Junior high.
When
Wow.
when
Okay.
when your parent works for Kodak, you have to make the tour of Rochester, which is where their headquarters were.
Right.
So I was there for junior high, and that was fine. And then we went to Texas after that for high school. So I was in the Dallas area for high school.
What a especially at that time, what a shocking change.
Different, very different. I had never experienced cliques and social groups and everything like that until I got to Dallas.
Well, the preps and the
Oh, the preps
the
and the
nerds
jocks
and the
and
jocks
the freaks
and the freaks and the geeks. Wow.
And they did not. You talked about in your acting class how you kind of had to walk on stage and
Yeah.
they didn't commingle.
Yeah, there was yes.
No, if you
there
were
was
in
no
one
granting
group-
anybody's beingness. Like,
No,
get out,
you were in
get
that
out of
group.
here.
You were assigned to that group, and that's the only group you interacted with.
That's interesting.
And I didn't fit in because I don't operate that way.
Yeah. I recognize that from when I grew up in Atlanta more so than when I hit Los Angeles, because the population density of the school was so great in LA that the cliquishness really hid in the background of a lot because there were so many people.
Oh.
It was even hard to find those cliques. You could disappear, it was strange. But so in Colorado, the school experience was just when we're that young, it's hard to be cliquish anyway.
It is, true.
Up until 5th, 6th grade when people start getting
Really
into their
noticing the
thing, yeah.
differences.
So what was the change like when you got to Rochester from Colorado?
It was cold.
No doubt. Well,
Winter-
yeah, but Colorado's freezing.
It's a different cold.
Okay.
I mean, when you live in Rochester, New York, and you're right up by Lake Erie,
Oh.
winters are entirely different,
Oh, I can imagine.
and so that was not fun.
How many years were you there for?
Probably about 2.5.
2 years.
Not very long. Junior high.
Yeah, but what was it like the social? I just know from one city to another there can be very different, kind of local cultural,
Right. But-
traditional kind of ways of behaving and acting and that kind of stuff.
What I remember from there it was a fairly small town outside of Rochester that everybody just you could get along with everybody. We talked about the cliques in high school. This was the exact opposite. If you wanted to be in the math club, but you also wanted to do drama,
Yeah.
but you wanted to do this, you could bounce around to whatever your interests were, and it was accepted.
So when I was
Unless I just did that and I didn't know any better.
Well, when I was picturing Rochester, I was just picturing possibly like a bigger type. So you actually went into almost was it maybe an even smaller town
Suburb,
kind of
yep.
of a vibe than what you were already at in Denver, outside of Denver, or was
I
it
would say
comparable?
Probably comparable.
Okay.
Yeah, suburbs all the way.
And what about your parents' social scene? What was what did they have much of a social scene? Did they have?
No, my parents have always been pretty much loners.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they've had groups of friends where they would have game night or they would go do things like that. But for the most part, my dad is an avid reader, so he probably goes through 2-3 books a week. My mom reads a lot, so they're very much homebodies.
Oh yeah, so they're happy when it's quiet.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, that being said, did that did that keep you kind of maybe balanced in a way that seeing sort of the because what it sounds to me like your parents had a simple way of doing things and keeping things going. I'm sure that they probably had all of their finances totally and completely
Oh, I'm
locked
sure they
down.
did.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
But being around that kind of stability, did that rub off on you?
I would say to a certain extent, but then when you've been stable for so long, you kind of want to break out a little bit.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So I mean, when I was in Dallas, into high school, yes, you run with the wrong crowd for a while,
Right.
but you don't run as far as you'd like to run because you know what's going to happen at home if you get caught. Type of thing.
Yeah.
But they did give me a lot of leeway. I mean, some of my best memories in high school were going to the midnight movies. My girlfriend and I would go see all the slasher flicks at midnight.
Did you ever do the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Of course.
Yeah, that was.
In its prime.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to a few of those back in the 80s. It was something else.
And the Dawn of the Dead was a big thing, and of course all the Bruce Campbell movies.
Oh,
and
sure. What a blast.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that.
Where were you outside of Dallas?
Richardson.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with that part of. I'm not familiar with Dallas.
No,
to be
that's
perfectly
okay.
Honest, but, what was your parents? Were they involved in church at all or anything like that, or were they pretty secular? Or?
My mother is a very devout Catholic,
Uh-huh.
and I think my dad has been in church 3 times.
Gotcha.
Very interesting. I'd say the dichotomy in my household. When you have a very religious person and then you have someone who is not.
Right.
So it was an interesting balance.
Well, the power of prayer, she was good enough for both of them.
I would say so.
Did you? But you didn't notice that there was any conflict with them regards that, huh?
Not really.
Oh.
No, I mean, Dad would get up and he would drive us to church and drop us off and come home and do whatever he did, and then he'd come back and pick us up and bring us back home again.
That's actually really cool. I mean, it just wasn't his thing.
Nope.
And Mom was like, "Hey, it's not your thing."
I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I'm sure there were probably some issues at times, but
Yeah. Well, they're
hit-
still together,
they hit it
so
well, so
yeah,
something's working.
Yeah. They obviously ironed them out.
I'd say so.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's what communication is all about, really, and being able to, get to a bottom line and allow people, grant people beingness.
Exactly.
Allow people to be who they are. If somebody's not, comfortable being, in a organized kind of religious environment, then there's no reason to force them into it. It'll just create more tension and more.
Although I think my mom would
Divisiveness,
prefer that everybody was engaged as much as she was.
Course.
But
Of course. We can't always get what we want.
precisely.
But we might just get what we need. It's beautiful, the story of your parents, though. That's really interesting. And did seeing that difference, though, with your mom being, a devout Catholic, Dad being a little bit more passé about the whole thing, how did that affect you in terms of transitioning your way through, dealing with a belief in a spiritual spine, or or something else? Was there a conflict there?
I've gone up and down with it all. I mean, now I kind of look at let's just everybody be nice. Let's just put out positive vibes. Let's ask for positive vibes. If you want to call that God, that can be God. If you want to call it something else, if you just want to call it the universe, you know, I'm fine with however people want to address that, as long as we can just be nice to each other, try to be positive. I mean, I've hit my lows, trust me, in life.
Right.
I've hit some lows. I've been on my knees praying and praying for good things. But then when you come out on the other side, you're like, was it my inner strength? Was it an outside strength that came into me? You don't know.
I always choose all of the above.
Yes.
You know, it's the quickest way to make sense out of it for me. Well, that said, when you did get into high school, you said you kind of got into a little bit more of a wild side of you came out.
It was the 80s.
Of
I lived
course.
in Dallas.
Yeah.
Every concert came through town.
Yeah.
You know, that was a great time to be a teenager.
Yeah, oh, no,
It really was.
Lord knows my wild side was absolutely out of control in the 80s. There's no doubt about it. What was kind of the direction that, you know, was it a music thing that drew you in that direction? Was it just a crowd that you got attracted to or that embraced you coming in from out of town?
It was the fact that the group I hung out with, they didn't judge you. You know, I hung out more with the freaks and the stoners, and you know, we could go have a good time. I've always related better to guys.
Right.
I don't like the drama that surround girls and women, and I don't like shopping.
You don't like a hen party?
No, heavens no. And so I'd be like the guys, let's just go play poker. Let's drink a couple beers. You know, that was chill for me.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of gravitated towards those types of people.
And
My son's probably learning all kinds of things at the moment. I have to remember my child's here.
we'll keep it generality. We'll keep generalities here. Well, you know, during that time, what did you find that you were getting detached from, you know, focusing on school and a future, and was there some issues at home at that point, or was it?
I wouldn't
Were you
say
able to keep a balance?
I did okay. I mean, I did all right in school. I didn't really have to try very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back now and wish I would have applied myself a little more. But when you go to a bigger school, you kind of get, like you said, you get lost. And I truly wish that there would have been more direction in the school to say, okay, you have these strengths. These are opportunities you could have in the future using these strengths.
Yeah.
So I feel like I felt I was smart, but I didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
If that makes any
interesting.
sense.
Sure it does. Yeah, it absolutely does. The reason why I ask about the balance thing is because I you know, throughout life we take on all different kinds of personality traits that we adopt from different people that we come across, and people who have a heavy influence on us, plus everything that we're taught starts to get compartmentalized into different areas of our mind, and we think with all of this information. And so, you know, what I was curious about was if you know, navigating that, because when you get into a scene where it's a little bit loose, you know, where the morals get stretched,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the edges some, and then it challenges the personal ethics, because if we have a strong personal ethical spine
Mm-hmm.
and end up in a scene or a crowd that's a little bit more loose around the edges, that can be a challenge,
Right,
you know.
right.
So where the balance, you know, I think would. When I think about myself, because I had a whole lack of balance, but when I look at that
We would have
balance,
gotten along great.
I know exactly. But it seems like you know. Did you find that you came close to an edge that you didn't want to cross?
I knew where my boundaries were.
You did,
I
okay.
always did. I was the person that I would hit a certain point and I'd be like, okay, I just myself can't go past this.
Yeah.
I was the person who would be the one driving everybody home after a party,
Right.
because and maybe it
You
was
saw
my
the writing
upbringing.
on the wall.
Maybe it was my upbringing. I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't completely lose control.
Yeah.
And so to a certain point, and that was it.
Well, that makes sense, because when I went in the description of your family life, you know, it seems like it was pretty well structured.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that same kind of, you know, was it an overbearing structure? Because you seem to say that your parents were pretty lenient with you.
Yes and no.
Uh-huh.
Yes and no. I mean, you knew what the guidelines were. Did you cross them and hope you didn't get caught? Of course. Who didn't? Who didn't? But,
Right.
But you knew. But you also knew if you got caught, you were in a whole lot of trouble.
Without going into too much detail, what was the biggest trouble you got into?
The biggest trouble I got into, I remember one of the things that irritated me the most is back at that time we used to have to stand in line to get tickets to concerts.
Right.
I don't remember if you remember having to camp out at the ticket place.
My mom was in the music business. She was
Oh, so
a
you
graphic
didn't have to-
designer in the music business. Yeah, so we never stood in line.
Okay. Well, Journey was coming to town in Dallas, and so we had to camp out to get in line to get tickets because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have any other way to get tickets. So I was down there with friends. Finally got our tickets, got home, and my parents said, well, where have you been? And I said, I told you I was going to go get tickets. Like, well, weren't you supposed to mow the lawn today? Well, yeah, but look, I got Journey tickets. Well, great, you're not going because the lawn's not mowed. And you're just, you're kind of like, but I got the tickets right.
Didn't you just run outside and mow the lawn right then and
It
there?
didn't matter because
Oh, the time
I
was up.
didn't meet my obligation, and so
So
things
you
like
didn't get to see the Journey concert?
no,
You really didn't get
really
to go see
did
the
not
Journey?
get to go.
I would get on the phone with them right now and give them a piece of my mind from the past. Mom, Dad.
So
Wow.
it's things like that I remember. Of course, I got away with a lot that they don't know about, that they will
Right.
never know about, that you will never know about.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, that's just that's rough. But I mean, did that send you into more of a rebellious stage at that point, being denied the Journey concert?
Probably to a certain extent. I
Yeah.
mean, they were pretty good. I mean, I did see my fair share of
Oh,
concerts.
okay.
And their big thing was, you have to go to school the next day. You have to keep up your grades. Yes, you can do this, and I don't care if you're out till 2 a.m, but you're still going to fulfill everything else you have to fulfill.
Well, that's
So it's interesting now that you bring this all up, and I'm looking back at it. I go, I guess I had these freedoms that I didn't realize I had, and I guess I had constraints that I didn't realize were holding me back.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And also being given or being granted that kind of freedom by your parents within the boundaries that are set, but still saying, hey, go have a great time, be home, when it's over, whatever time that is, but you got to deal with your stuff tomorrow,
Exactly.
no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great life lesson in a couple of ways. That you're being trusted,
Mm-hmm.
and when someone trusts me, it makes me want to live up to that trust even more.
Right.
If someone doesn't trust me, I mean, I'll still do what I said I'm going to do, but I'm like,
What good is it?
I might even half-ass it, But then also at the same time, laying down the law about living up to your obligations, your responsibilities, regardless of how you feel the next day.
Right.
That's a very Army thing.
It is, but then I think it carries over when you're that way. I think you become a much more rigid person.
Yeah.
And ask my kids, I am very much more a rigid person. So I've tried to raise them because I know I like things a certain way. I want things done a certain way. And I'm like, no, they have to be able to experience things for themselves too.
Right.
They have to experience their own lives. And so I think, did I raise you guys to be independent? I tried for the most part.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Well, you're raised to be a great guy, as far as I can tell.
Oh yeah. There's a side to it where you got a public setting, act accordingly. You're around your parents, react accordingly. But then there's those other times, like she mentioned, it's like there's stuff that if you weren't there to witness it, it will not get talked about.
It never happened.
And it's like times like that. It's okay. Did that just happen? Yes. Okay. Let's not talk about that. Let's not mention it. Hey, who's a great guy? What's going on?
Well, there's time for locker room talk and locker room antics, and there's time for the dining room.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But when I'm looking at that right now, what was happening in high school, at that point with such a busy social scene, were you still focused on some kind of idea of a sound future for yourself?
Probably not. I actually got married a year out of high school,
Okay.
and I was married to their dad for 16 years.
That's a stretch.
He lives up the street. I mean, we still get along fine. I mean, he's a great guy. It's just over time you grow apart.
Yes, I understand.
I will to this day say he's a phenomenal craftsman. He's a great guy. We just no longer fit.
Yeah, but you still co-parent and
We
and
did.
keep
Mhm.
yeah. That's what's most important. When I see parents using their children as battering rams
No.
against each other, it's
Kids
just
first.
yeah, absolutely kids first.
Kids first.
Well then, so was he in high school with you? Is that how you met?
Nope, I was actually dating his cousin.
Oh, okay. That hey,
It happens.
yeah, exactly.
It
Well, that's funny.
happens.
So was his cousin at your school
No,
with
we
you or something?
worked together after high school.
Oh, okay. Where were you working?
It was a little carpet store.
Okay. All right.
I was doing bookkeeping, so
How did you end up doing bookkeeping right out of high school?
I
That's strange.
like math and numbers, and
Oh, all
took
right.
a couple business classes in high school, and just had a knack for it.
Back when they offered business classes
They
in
had
high
business
school.
classes. I said that's one thing we need to teach right now is let's just teach some common sense life courses.
Oh, tell me about it.
This is what insurance is. This is what a payment is. This is what a budget is.
Absolutely. It's
I mean,
well, they used to. There was a lot of. I remember even in elementary school, they had home ec courses and all kinds of different, knitting class and
Oh, yeah.
crocheting class. I mean, I did some of those things too. I was like, knitting sounds fun. It wasn't fun at all for me. After a while, I was like, I'm over this. But there was just a cute girl that I kind of liked. It was the knitting class. But
Colorado in the 70s, we made candles, we did tie-dye, we had hippie teachers.
Right?
It was fun.
I know, it was a lot of fun.
of
School
fun.
nowadays seems like a drag to
Very
me.
much so.
But we're not here to talk about school today. We're here to talk about you. So meeting him, what was it? Was it like immediate, like all the angels
No,
sang?
like I
or?
said, I was dating his cousin, and then one day I ended up really, really sick. I don't know if I got an infection from something, and I remember I'm sick enough. I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm that sick, living on my own, and I remember calling him. Why? I don't know. Couldn't tell you to this day.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you come take me to the hospital? And it's like, he's looking at the guy I'm dating. He's like, I'm not sure why she called me, but she wants me to take her to the hospital. And I ended up having a very bad infection.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of clicked from there on, which
Wow.
it was, I don't know, I guess it was meant to be for
It-
that time.
It was just a strange twist of fate.
It was. It really was.
Right. It's so weird how that kind of stuff happens in life. It's so strange. Even when looking back on it, it doesn't really figure.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
You could never plan anything like that.
And did you? I'm hoping that they're not going to be too squealy in the background of this, but they should be fine.
I'll go take care of them for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's fine. I mean, they're not too loud. They're so cute. I can't blame them. They're so
They're
cute.
annoying.
When you were coming out of high school, so then you end up married right away, and you had kids shortly after that,
No,
or
we're probably 6 years later.
6 years later. So
Yeah.
what were you doing during that 6 year period?
I'm trying to remember what I did. He was self-employed. He did construction and remodel and things like that.
That's good labor. You can make some
Oh,
good
yeah,
money. It's a
it's a-
hustle, but you can
Yeah,
make
no,
really
he
good money.
had some great connections. I did a lot of the bookkeeping for the business,
Oh, okay.
things like that. I actually worked for a software company that had I stayed with them, I would be retired a millionaire right now.
Ah,
But hindsight is great.
dang-nabbit.
I think they went public 2 years after we moved up here. Yep, from the Dallas area, they went public, sold out, and we're like, that was just a stupid move.
oh boy,
But
when
it's life.
it is life. Yeah, I can't look at my financial decisions from the 90s.
Yeah.
It just, it eats me alive. Working together with him, I guess, did you guys have a good relationship? Working, I mean, you were doing some bookkeeping for him, stuff like that. Was that, but it seems like you moved from the bookkeeping on to do your own thing
Right.
with the software. Was that
Well,
sort of?
that was just kind of it was just you luck into jobs. I think most of the jobs I've had, they've just been you've lucked into them. including the one I have now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that I've gone out looking for a job. They've just kind of presented themselves.
And I mean, is that from social relationships you've made, or
Probably just
putting
different.
yourself out there in different groups or something? 'Cause-
I'm not a big outgoing person, so it's very interesting that within my small circles in these different stages of my life,
yeah.
that I've talked to the right person at the right time to get the right connection.
Well, it must say something about your character too, though, because I know that that if you just meet somebody and if you don't see that they have a strong character, you're not going to introduce them to somebody else to get them a job.
Probably not, because that would weigh back on you.
Yeah.
You know.
So at that time, what do you? I mean, because most of the time we don't notice our own characters, but if you look back on it, did you feel that you were grounded grounded in life?
I would say
and
very
stable,
much from a young age. From a young age, I've always
mindfully stable. you could
mindfully
say?
stable. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've always felt like felt older than I am in some regards, but always feel younger than I am in others.
Yeah, I can relate.
So, but no, I've always been very stable with my jobs and what I do. I tend to like what I do, so I do well at it.
And that's and that kind of enthusiasm just breeds more better jobs.
Well, we
and-
try.
and better opportunities a lot of the time, unless you're in my business. But
And then you get in an RV with a couple of guys. And
yes. That RV, if it could talk, it would scream.
I'm sure it would tell some stories.
Not about us, from wherever it's been the last 30
Oh.
years. I don't even know how old that thing is. It's hilarious. We couldn't have gotten a better one, though, to be honest.
Special challenges.
Yeah, it's a special challenge.
It's special.
So, what I do get curious about, because I'm seeing a thread that goes from your youth all the way up through where there's been it seems a pretty strong balance, and that says something about your character and the level of responsibility you're willing to take, which has a lot to do with character. So what I'm curious about is just when you look back on your life, what could you attribute a lot of attribute that success to, even if you might not see it as success.
Right. I was gonna say,
it is.
it's perseverance. I mean, when you have to do something, you do it whether you want to do it or not. And it's a struggle. I mean, when we eventually got divorced and I became, for the most part, a single mom and doing things like that, it was definitely a struggle. Raising kids, trying to balance, daycare and kids and a job. And then I did kind of the non-traditional route and went back to school.
Oh,
So I didn't go right to college. I did all that later.
Yeah.
And then lucked into a job working at a college. So then I got a reduced tuition on the classes and just kind of started chipping away and chipping
What were you
away.
studying at that time?
Accounting. I actually went back just to see how much Spanish I remembered. I remember taking Spanish as a kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, it'd be just fun to see if I retain any of this.
Yeah.
And so I just took a couple Spanish classes more for fun. And I'm like, well, maybe I could get back into the school thing. And so then I, of course, went to accounting because I like math and numbers.
Such a rare breed you are.
And then I ended up, just like I said, working a couple classes a semester and dealing with the kids. And
working a job.
well, one time I
Like
had
the-
three.
One time. So what were the 3 jobs you had at that one time?
I worked at a CPA firm.
Uh-huh.
I worked at the college, and I bartended.
Yes, the bartending always does bring in a little bit of extra cash. My mom did that too when I was
Nice
growing up.
cash.
She was a graphic designer in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and then bartended 4 nights a week or something like that. And also I think that also helped her out with this feeling of being a single mom, 2 kids, all that sort of gave her a bit of a social life.
You got to see adults.
You got to see adults and hang out.
I don't know if they were any fun, but
Still,
but
there's-
you got out of the house. You got to put on a different role for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's it shows your perseverance to say, I'm going to, against all odds, figure out a way to make something better for myself.
Right.
Which I gotta say, a lot of people would have given up on the college part of it and getting a better, education, and especially after having been so far off from high school.
Oh, yeah.
And being maybe an older person in the classes with the other people.
Definitely.
It's a lot to suck that up and just go with it. I'm impressed by that a lot. What was it that you saw for yourself that was, did you just see something bigger and better just for yourself and for your kids, or
Well,
what was it that was driving you?
I think it was just, I started it and so I had to finish it.
Okay.
I had gotten to a point where I was so far in that it's like I've put all this time and effort into it. If I don't finish it, I have wasted this time. And so as horrible as it was, I mean, it was rough. There were plenty of times it was rough. I'm like, but the end is in sight. I just have to get there. What I'm going to do with it when I get there, I have no idea. It'll basically tell me I'm qualified to do the job I already have.
Right.
I mean, so it's a piece of paper saying, okay, now you can officially do what you've done your whole life.
Right.
But I did it, and I have that piece of paper.
And did when you finally got that, did it serve the purpose that you had planned on it serving?
I guess so. I mean, I didn't walk. It wasn't a big public event. It was for me.
Yeah. And did it afford you better jobs, more liquidity?
I've actually been at this same job since I pretty much started school, but I have moved up where
Okay.
I am, and I eventually got my master's degree, and
Wow, that's fantastic.
so I mean, so it has definitely benefited me at my job, because without this and the knowledge, I couldn't have been promoted
Right.
as I have been.
And just that stability alone is I'm sure very comforting.
Right.
You know.
Definitely.
And then how was that raising kids though, being so busy? I mean, did was that a struggle to maintain a close relationship with your children and not let them get snatched up by the social scenes and the
I tried to let my kids are all very unique, very different, very independent in their own way. If you were to meet all three of them together, you would not realize they were related. They're completely different people, but they got to decide who they wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, did we butt heads? Plenty of times, but I was always the mom first. And you'll ask them, I'm not your friend. I hear these other people talk about, how their mom was their best friend growing up, and I said, but you need that separation. You need someone to put down rules, to say no at times.
Yeah.
And I had no problem. I said, we can have fun, but if I have to pull the mom card, I'm pulling the mom card.
Exactly.
But one funny thing, that my middle child, he would watch me do homework. Of course, when they're little, you do it after they go to bed.
Uh-huh.
As they get older, you kind of work it in. Of course, then they have their own homework. And he said, Mom, I said, yeah. He says, no offense, but I think I'm going to go to college right out of high school and not do it like you're doing. I said, please do. Please don't take this route.
That was it's funny that he thought he might be offending you. It's
Right.
That actually says that.
But he saw the struggle that I was going through at that age and realized he did not want to be there at that time.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Oh boy, if I could only go back myself. That said, having created all of that on your own, when you're, if there's somebody out here who's watching us right now, or who gets this sent to them, who is struggling like that, freshly divorced, has kids, feels like the world is on their shoulders,
Oh,
not
yes.
enough jobs. What kind of advice could you share with them that might help them to overcome their own insecurities about it?
I think you have to learn to rely on yourself. You have to learn to trust your gut. I think gut checks are very important. If things don't feel right, they probably aren't. Life is a struggle. It is, but you have to choose. Do you give in to the struggle? Do you face it head on? I mean, how can you deal with it? And it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, I had plenty of breakdowns, tears, crying. I mean, there were some ugly times in my life, you know. No money, but you hope that the kids don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you go to the grocery store and you're doing math as you're shopping, and they think it's fun and they're just learning numbers, and you're saying, okay, I've got $45 to spend. Somebody's got to keep a total as we put things in the cart.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of do things that they pick up on as a life lesson, but they don't realize, and it's just things like that carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to, you know, the one that's just about to just give up on it all right now?
There's always a dark time. Everybody will have dark times. I mean, if someone says they haven't hit a low in their life, I'd be amazed. I would think they're lying. Somebody's hit some type of low somewhere, and just find it within yourself. Find somebody you can talk to. You know, you're not the only person that has gone through this. You know, try and reach out to people. I mean, find a solid core, find a good friend, find a friend that'll kick you in the butt when you need it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I've got a great girlfriend, and we may not talk for periods, but if she picks up the phone, I'll be there. If I call her, she will be there in an instant.
Yeah.
You have to have that one person at least in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. That's very, very true. I want to leave it there because that's an interesting. Some of the other ones we've stopped on have been a little more cerebral or whatever, but this is a great one to stop on because nowadays there's a lot of isolation going on, and people find a lot of their socializing happening on mechanical mediums, you know, through, you know,
Right.
and having physical friendships and physical contact is so vital, I think, especially when it comes to friendships and people you can rely on. Because if say, you know, if I spend all my time on social media and I'm saying, and I think I have all these friends, and suddenly something, you know, goes wrong in my life, and I don't have anybody that I can actually call,
Right.
that can actually come over to my house,
Right.
you know, or that I can actually go physically to their house.
It's different. I mean, you can have people online, and you can rely on people online. I mean, I have plenty of friends that are not close, that I've never met, that have been online. But there's still something there with human contact.
So this is something that we all need to take home and chew on, that as much as, you know, we can spend a lot of time on our social media and all of that, that it is, even during these trying times, it is still very, very important for us to get out and be in physical contact with people and have actual discussions.
I agree.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
letting us come over here. And I'm so sorry it's so late. We have to drive all the way back to Springfield now.
You guys are troopers.
But you know, we said we were going to be here,
And you're here.
and Love America Tour showed up. We're gonna find something.
Anything
Leave
particular
on the
you
wall.
want?
Some really good art, and I expect you to meet me in the bedroom as soon as I do. Won't be that one. That's all stuck together now. Wallpaper paste, straight from Australia. Street artist's favorite mix. I'm gonna just do a little bit of it because we don't need that much. We'll save the rest. Do you have a Ziploc bag by chance? I know this is going to look very suspicious inside of a Ziploc bag, but I promise you it is only...
I have one that we can
That's
put in with the
perfect.
twister tie.
Perfect. It's only glue powder. Start to
So you're putting anything on there? Okay. Oh no. I don't know if that'll. Let's see if my.
We got a little bit of water. Strange doing this on a wall in the bedroom.
That's not gonna be a bedroom for long.
Let's see what's barely expected. Second, we'll grab some more water. Right here.
Oh, that's brick wallpaper.
Oh, that's funny.
And I said, she was officially gone. How fun would it be to have street art all over it?
It would be really
A
cool.
brick wall. You can't do that to my room yet.
Do an extra fine job for you. What is that? Well, it's definitely going to be different. Their neighbors will look in the window a bit.
What the hell is wrong with that lady?
A masked man. What's TCF stand for?
The chosen few.
Oh, okay. That's all your other name.
Tell my girlfriend at work about all this. That is so you. This whole thing is just so you.
Well, I am just so glad that we were able to make it here. Because there was a moment.
Hey, and hey, if it happens, it happens.
Here we go.
Now when I send it to you, hello, everybody, I know who I am.
Just smooth that out with the edges. Blend that some. So it's not all blobby. On the wall. Ta-da.